students, welcome back to our SS online class, and today we are going to start with a new chapter, and the name of the chapter is chapter 10, the flowering of the regional cultures. That is part 1. We are going to divide this chapter into two parts, part 1 and part 2. So today we will study about the part 1, and let us start with the chapter. Now you all know that what is a culture. So culture means what? The different people, the belief that they have, the way of life, their arts, their customs, okay, which are shared and they accepted by the particular people in a particular society. So all these things, they come into the culture. Now the culture of India, it has passed through many modifications since medieval period, and you know that different people, they have traveled from the different parts of the world and they have come in India and settled down over here. So we find lot of culture over here. That means we have a fusion of culture. How we have a fusion of dance, right? You're mixing 4 to 5 songs and then you are dancing on that. So in the same way we have the fusion of culture. That means what? You are going to find different types of people living in India and the different culture that they follow. And ultimately our culture is becoming more and more rich day by day. So today we will study about the development that has been happened in the field of language and literature, painting, music and dance in the different parts of India. So the first topic for our classes today, the language and literature. That what all things were there in the language and literature that helped in the development in this field. So the first point is North India. We will study about the North India during the reign of 800 to 1300 AD, which all changes were there. So in the North India, Bengali and Marathi emerged in the east and west side of India, as the local people, they were speaking these languages, especially in Bengal side and all those areas. Bengali was there, and in the west of India, Marathi was being spoken by the people. Now the Bhakti saints, as you know, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Tukaram, they preached their Bhakti in the local languages, that is in Marathi, and that is why this helps them to popularize these languages further. Popularize means what? These languages become more and more famous, and the people started speaking in these languages. Plus many literary works. Literary works means what? All the works that are related to their bhaktis or some poetries or the novels. Okay, so these are composed in that particular period. For example, Somdeva, he wrote Katha Sarita Sagar. Okay, this was the work done by Somadeva. Then the next one we have Kalana's Raj Tarangini. Okay, Kalana's Raj Tarangini. Now this is the noteworthy historical work. Okay, Raj Tarangini is historical work, plus this Katha Sarita Sagar is the collection of the stories and legends. Okay, so many stories, many legends you will find in this book. Then the next is Jayadeva. Jayadeva, he has composed Gita Govinda. Now this is the poem, especially poem based on the love of Krishna and Radha. From the name itself you can understand. Then we have the biographies of the kings also written. Okay, so for example, one biography's name is Bilhana's Vikramanak Deva Charitra. Okay, so this is the biography of the Chalukya king Vikramaditya. Which king? Chalukya king Vikramaditya. So all these things were, literary works were done during the 800 to 1300 AD in North India. Now we will study about South India, that which all things were development were there in the South India. Especially 3 languages developed in that period. That is the Chola kings were ruling that time in South India, and the languages were Tamil, Telugu and Kannada. So these 3 languages prospered under the Chola rule, plus the administrative records, means whatever the records you will find of that period, they are in these languages. And Malayalam, this language was popularized by the Chera kings. Okay, so whosoever the Chera dynasty was that time, so they popularized the Malayalam language, and the Chola rulers patronized the literary activities very much. Means what? During the Chola kings that time, the literary work was done as compared to the other kings. It was done. Many religious and secular works were translated during this reign. Means the work especially related to the religious and secularism Okay, so these works from other languages, they were translated into the local languages. For example, Kamban, he translated Ramayana into Tamil. So Ramayana basically it was written in Sanskrit language, and that Kamban he translated Ramayana into the Tamil language. Plus Mahabharata was translated into Telugu by Nayana and Tikana. Who translated Mahabharata into Telugu? Nayana and Tikana. Then Kannada was enriched by the writings of Pampa, Pona and Rana. Okay, Pampa, Pona and Rana. Pampa, Pona and Rana, these are the three jewels of the Kannada literature. All these three, they have made the Kannada literature really popular and rich. And the works of Tamil saints enriched Tamil. So whosoever Tamil saints were there, they enriched the Tamil language and which become famous in the South India. Then next we have the Sultanate period, that is from 1206 to 1526. This is the period of the Sultanate period, and especially during this time Hindi was commonly spoken in different parts of India, and the two forms of Hindi especially which were very famous during that time, that were Braj and Avdi. So you must have heard the name Braj and Avdi. So this Braj and Avdi, these are the two forms of Hindi and they become very popular. Plus other languages also emerged during this period. For example, Punjabi, Oriya, Assami, Sindhi. Okay, so these languages they emerged during the Sultanate period in India. Plus our Purnas, whatever the Purans are there, whatever Ramayana, Mahabharata and all these literary works, they are translated into these local languages. Then next we have now the Turks. Okay, the Turks introduced Persian in India. Now the Turkish who came from the Turkey side, they introduced Persian language in India and it became the court language. During that time, Sultanate period, it became the court language. Court language means what? Whatever the administrative work was done or literary work was done, that was being done in the Persian language. And the poets such as Amir Khusro, he wrote as well as in Persian language as well as in Hindi. Means he used to write his work in Hindi also and Persia also. And in the course of time, Persian and Hindi fused to give a new birth to a new language, and that language is called as Urdu. So Urdu is the language which is made up of Persia and Hindi, and Urdu means camp, the word camp. Now camp means what? Why it is called as camp? Because the new language was immersed in the camp of soldiers. Means during that time, whichever the soldiers were there in the Sultanate period, they especially were speaking, some were speaking Persian language, some were speaking Hindi, and because of that this language slowly and gradually developed among them, and then it started becoming famous in India. Now Urdu emerged as a link language which was spoken and understood by a large population. So this language was followed by a large population in India and it became a link language. Link language means what? It's like a bridge between some people who did not understand Hindi or some people who did not understand Persia. So ultimately they were using Urdu as that language, and which became a communication means of between these two groups. Then the literature of the period consists of famous original works including those of Amir Khusro's in Persian. Means which all literatures were there? Especially Amir Khusro's work was there which was in Persian language, plus Srinada's Hara Vilasa in Telugu. Now Srinasa, he is the poet and he has written Hara Vilasa in Telugu, and the poems of Vidyapati in Maithili. So Maithili is also language and Vidyapati is the poet, so his works are written in language Maithili. Plus many Sanskrit languages, they were translated into Persia as well as Arabic. And the next one is a Vijayanagar Empire. Now that time the Vijayanagar rulers, they specially encouraged Sanskrit and Telugu, and that is why Sanaya wrote commentaries on the Vedas. So Sanaya was a writer, or you can say a poet, author. So that time he wrote the commentaries on the Vedas, Plus Krishna Dev Raya. Krishna Dev Raya is one of the famous kings of the Vijayanagar Empire, and he himself was a great scholar of Telugu and Sanskrit. Scholar means what? He was a master in Telugu and Sanskrit, and he composed poems called Amukta Malyada in Telugu. The word Amukta Malyada in Telugu. And he also patronized many learned men in his court. Patronize means what? To help, to support all the learned men in his court means what? He was encouraging all these people so that they can create more and more literary works, and which can make our culture more and more rich. Then next we have the Mughal period, that is from 1526 to 1707. So which all works were done in this during this period? We will study about them. Mughals made Persian as the official language of the empire. So as you know that during that time Persia became very famous in India, plus the administrative work was done in Persian languages. So the Mughals, they also followed this language as their official language. Official means what? Like how in our school we are speaking Hindi as, English as a medium of language. So these people, they were using Persia as the medium of their language, plus all the administrative records and the proceedings of the royal courts were maintained in Persia. So whatever the records has to be maintained, that were maintained in Persian languages. Plus Akbar, that time, who was ruling the Mughal, he was the ruler of the Mughal kingdom during that time. He also encouraged Persian literature, and what he did, he had the Ramayana and Mahabharata translated in the Persian languages. So these two epic books of our Hindus, they were translated into the Persian languages, plus books that are written in Arabic and Turkish languages, they were also translated into Persian languages so that the people can enjoy the essence of that literature. Plus many original works. Original work means what? That were written by those people during that time. They were done in Persian languages only. They were not the translated work, but original work was written in that languages. And Abul Fazl, he wrote the biography of Akbar called Akbarnama. So Akbarnama is a biography. Biography means what? Like autobiography means we are writing about our own self, and that is called as autobiography. Biography means what? Some other person is writing about our history of life or what is happening in our life, and that is called the biography. So Abu Fazl, he has written the biography of Akbar, that is called as Akbarnama, and a part of it means just a part of it, it is called as N-A-E-Akbari. What is the name of that? N-A-E-Akbari. Plus other Mughal emperors also patronized literature. Means after Akbar, whosoever the Mughal emperors were there, they also patronized literature. Jahangir's memories are called Tuzuk-e-Jahangiri. Memories means what? Whatever the work that was done by Jahangir, all that are mentioned in the book called Tuzuk-e-Jahangiri. Plus Abdul Hamid Lahori, he had written down Padshah-nama. What was the name of the book? Padshah-nama. And Dara Shikoh, he translated Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads into the Persian languages. So what was the name of that person? Dara Shikoh. He translated Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads into Persian languages. Plus many dictionaries were compiled in the Persian languages during the Mughal period, and the most secular ruler of the Mughal period, Akbar, patronized Hindi poets, which gave tremendous rise to Hindi literature. Means Akbar, he not only encouraged Persian language, but he also encouraged Hindi poets so that even Hindi can become famous in India, and that is why this gave rise to our Hindi literature. Vallabhacharya, Keshav Dasa, Tulsi Dasa, Surdas, and these were the famous Hindi poets of that time. Which all poets were there during that time? Vallabhacharya, Keshav Dasa, Tulsi Das, and Surdas. So these were the famous poets of that time. As you all know that Tulsidas has written down Ramcharitramanas, and Surdas, he has the collection of the poetry called Sursagar. What is the collection of the poems that Surdas has written? It is called as Sursagar. Plus Prem Vatika of Rakshak and Satsai of Bihari were the other popular works composed in Hindi. Which all works were there in Hindi apart from all this? The one very famous is, so Prem Vatika and Satsai, these were the famous works that were done in Hindi. And after the Akbar, whichever Mughal rulers were there, like Aurangzeb and all those people, what they did, they used Urdu as the means of expressing the literature. Means what? Urdu became the language for the literary expression. So they started writing in Urdu, and especially places like Delhi and Lucknow, they were the main centers of the Urdu poetry and literatures. And Mirza Ghalib, you must have heard the name Mirza Ghalib, right? So he was the greatest Urdu poet of that time. Mirza Ghalib, he was the greatest poet during the Mughal times. We have painting in our class, and as you all know that painting is also an important term in means of art, and how the painting developed in the medieval period, that we are going to study now. Now if you have visited the temples, especially in the South India or in the Northern India, if you are watching the walls of the temples or any beautiful palaces or any forts, if you have seen the paintings on the walls, you just can imagine how rich our culture was and how beautifully those walls were painted. So places in temples, they were decorated with the murals. Murals means what? These are the paintings that are done on the wall, and kings and other rich people, they used to patronize the painters. Patronize means what? They used to support the painters. Support means what? They used to encourage or they used to give financial supports to these painters so that they can develop their painting skills. And now we are going to study that how the painting flourished during the Sultanate period. Now most of the Sultanate rulers, they used to patronize painting, and the art of painting miniatures began to develop during this period. Miniature means what? It's not a large painting, but obviously it is a small painting. As you can see in your book, it is given on page number 67. Now this is the illustrated page from Tuti Nama, and this is the page from Mughal painting from the Babar Nama. So miniature means what? You understand from the word itself. Mini means what? Small. So these are the small paintings, okay? So the miniature painting, they started to develop from this period. Plus kings and nobles employed artists to decorate and illustrate books. So the king and the nobles who were there during the Sultanate period, they started employing. Employing means what? They, like how we are employing other people to do our job. So they started employing these painters to decorate their palaces or to decorate their books. Illustrate means what? Whatever the things are written, that with the help of the pictures, they are going to explain those things. So that is called illustration. And the court painters, they used to make the portraits of the kings. So whichever the kings were there, they used to make the portrait. Portrait matlab kya? Raja Maharajaon ki painting banana. Okay, so that is called portrait. And the next we have the Mughal period. Now in the Mughal period, the painting, it took to the great height, and the painting style that developed was a synthesis of Indian and the Persian tradition. Means what? During this time, the art of painting which was developed, it was the combination. It was the combination of two styles, that is the Indian style and the Persian style. And that is why the tradition of the miniature painting reached the high levels of refinement. High levels of refinement means what? It achieved, the refinement means what? It became more skillful, okay? The painters were more skillful. Their painting was excellent under the reign of Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan, okay? All these three, under their rule, the painting was reaching to the great heights. These paintings, sometimes it was done on the paper and sometimes it was done on the cloth, which is also known as cloth painting. Now Akbar Emperor, okay, Emperor Akbar, what he did, he established karkhanas. Now you must have heard the word karkhanas, right? Karkhanas means workshop. Now in this workshop, many painters were working, and according to the contemporary sources, Akbar employed over 100 painters. How many painters he employed over there? 100 painters. And in the year 1567, he ordered the preparation of the lavish illustrated manuscript for the Persian translation of the Hamza-Nama. Okay, Hamza-Nama, which is the book that is written in the 1000 pages, okay, which is having 1000 pages. and it is all beautifully illustrated, and it is a lavish manuscript. Lavish means what? Beautifully illustrated with high bold colors. Okay. And in the same way, there were other books which were illustrated. For example, Babarnama, Akbarnama and Tutinama. Which all books were illustrated? Babarnama, Akbarnama and Tutinama. You can see the examples on this page 67, that how the paintings were done and what all scenes were depicted in that, how the colors were used, okay, the bold colors were used. Then during the reign of Jahangir, painting reached its perfection. Means what? Painting became much more perfect as compared to the other reign of the emperors. Plus he introduced some features of the European style into India. Means how the Europeans used to do the painting, he also introduced that style into the Indian paintings, such as the element of the perspective. Perspective means what? It's a point of view of any person. So whatever painting you are doing, what does the painter want to depict from that painting? What exactly he wants to show? So through that perspective, the painters used to do the painting, and a large number of portraits were painted during his reign. Okay, large number of portraits means what? Whichever the kings were there, or nobles were there, or the queens were there, so their portraits were painted during this reign. And some of the famous painters of this time were Bazad, Balchan, Baswan, Bichar, Bisandas, Daulat, Govardhan, Inayat, Kana, Manohar, Mansur, Murad, Nana and Shankar. So all these were the famous painters of that time. And some of them, they stayed at the court of Shah Jahan. Stayed at that means what? They were employed over there and they were working over there. And what happened after Shah Jahan, when Aurangzeb took over the rule of Mughal kingdom, that time the painting, the start of the period was declining. The painting was declining. Why? Because he considered painting as un-Islamic. Un-Islamic means what? He is saying that according to the Islam, we should not paint or we should not do painting. So he considered it un-Islamic, and plus what he did, he dismissed the court painters. Dismissed means what? He took out from there, from the courts, and he made them unemployed. And because of that, what happened? Some of them, they started working for the local nawabs and the rich merchants. Instead of working in the court, they started working for the local nawabs and rich merchants. And plus many artists what they happened, they migrated to the different regional kingdoms, okay, and they started working over there. And if you look at the Mughal miniatures, they are beautiful, and the painters that they use bright colors like peacock blue and red, plus the themes are varied. Themes means what? Whatever the painting you all are doing, that it is done according to some theme, and that is also different. Like themes, for example, royal courts means how the courts used to be there during that time, how the battlefields were there. Then royal hunts means what? How they used to do the hunting, especially the kings and the queens and the emperors, okay. And plus the natural scenes, it can be anything like any view of any particular place or animals, birds or flowers, plus scenes depicting everyday life. About everyday life, it can be obviously royal life also, or any middle class life or low class people, or anything. Then themes from mythology. Mythology means what? Any stories like Ramayana, Mahabharata, example. So they can also depict that. Plus episodes from Hindu epics and Persian classics. Means whichever Hindu epics are there, like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, okay, from that also some scenes were painted. Then Persian classics means what? From Persia, which all scenes were there, they were also painted. Plus some painters, they were expert at painting portraits of kings and queens. Some were very excellent painters. They used to portrait means what? They used to make the exact picture, or they used to draw the exact painting of the kings and the queens. And skilled painters, they decorated books with beautiful miniature. Beautiful miniature means what? If some book is written down, then on the side of that book some paintings are done, small paintings are done. So those paintings are called as book miniature, okay. Now the next one is the regional kingdom. Regional kingdom is how the painting was flourished in the regional kingdoms. The painting was patronized by the different regional kingdoms. three distinct styles of painting prospered during the medieval period. Now, how many styles developed in the regional kingdoms? Basically, three styles developed. The first one is Rajput or Rajasthani style. The first one is which one? Rajput or Rajasthani style. The second one is Kangra, yeah, you can call it as Pahari style. Then Deccani style. The third one is the Deccani style. Now, as you know, by the name Rajasthani or Rajput style, you come to know that how this painting must be. So, the main centers of the Rajasthani styles were Mewar, Jodhpur, Bundi, Bikaner, Kota and Kishangarh. And the style, it flourished from the late 14th century till up to late 18th century. During which period this style prosper? It started during the late 14th century. Late, what do you understand by the word late? Late means what? At the end of the 14th century you can say, and till it flourished till end of the 18th century. Then the painters painted religious and mythological scenes. Now what did the painters paint in that? They painted religious, means whatever religion they belong, and whatever the myths means what? Whatever their stories are there. Kalpanic, mythology means what? It's kalpanic, okay? So if you believe, then people believe in that, but we don't know exact that really these things were there or no. So they used to depict scenes from that, especially the stories of Lord Krishna and Radha, then hunting and nature scenes, then interesting episodes from Hindu epics. So all these things were painted in the Rajasthani Rajput style. Then the next one is Kangra or Pahari style. Now what is the Pahari? The word Pahari means what? It's Pahad. Okay. So basically this style developed in the foothills of Himalayas. Where did it develop? In the foothills of Himalayas, and it flourished during the 18th century. In which century it started? In 18th century until early 19th century. Early means what? When the 19th century began, for few years it flourished, and then later on it started to decline. Then it started flourishing at the places like Chamba, Guler, Kullu, Mandi, Kangra and Basoli. And what all pictures were painted? The theme was Krishna Radha, and many stories from Gita Govinda were also illustrated. Plus, the main person who was, the patron of this Kangra school, okay, he was Raja Sansar Chand. What was his name? Raja Sansar Chand. He used to patron this Kangra school. Patron means what? He used to support, he used to give the financial support, he used to encourage them, okay. And the next one is Deccani style. Now, Deccani style, as you understand from the word, especially this style developed in the Deccan areas of the India, and it started in the late 16th century, and especially in the place like Ahmedabad, sorry, not Ahmedabad, it's Ahmednagar, Bijapur and Golcondas. So these places are especially in the Deccan plateaus of India, and this style flourished over there. And what all things were depicted? Like things like battle scenes, then kings in different moods, like happy mood, sad mood, or some different expressions, okay. So all these were developed in this style. Then the detailing was excellent. Detailing means what? Minute details, like if any painting, if you are looking at that, all the details will be there, all the things which are nearby that painting, everything will be shown in that. Plus, in this style of painting, the soft colors are used, and the attention to the geometrical symmetry. Geometrical symmetry means what? You understand symmetry means what? Both the sides are equal or no, up or down, it is symmetrical or no. So according to that, this style, this is the feature of this style. Plus, Ibrahim Adil Shah II was the patron of this school of painting. Now, who supported this style? Ibrahim Adil Shah, he supported this school of painting. Now, here we come to know about the painting style of the medieval period. In the next class, we are going to study about the music and the dance, that how the development was done in the medieval period. Thank you.